What's the human experience that you actually want to live? Now, I know for me, I remember having a dear brother who was assisting and mentoring me ask me, what would be fun to create? At that point in my evolution, I was in suffering. I was in pain. I was in the story that I needed to heal to get out of the trauma, the distortions. I needed to purify my lens to come into truth that I was an illusionary expression of a human being that was guided by ego and that had to find the way out of the ego trap to freedom. So when he asked, what would it be fun to create? I was unable to answer. I was like, none of this is fun. Absolutely none of this experience is fun. This is hard work. I'm leaning in. I'm crying. I'm working through all of the resistance, all of the blocks, all of the false stories. I'm exposing myself. I have vulnerability that is moving through me and from me in ways where my feminine feels victimized and fearful of being seen. And so when I was in that state of being, I didn't know what was fun to create, because I was in my suffering. And yes, I learned how to get out of it by diving deeply into it, by dissecting every part of my human psyche and understanding spirituality and the human condition, inside out, upside down. And thankfully I did choose that way. I'm grateful that I did, because I was able to create a process called the DAC process, which allows us to reconcile the human condition, or that of the separate mind, and come into wholeness, transcendence, and purification. It is a framework and a structure that is holistic and works in all of the 4 expressions of the quadrants of the human experience, as well as the Holy Trinity. And so this is a holistic modality that you can apply and use for anything. But regardless of what it was, that at that point, that suffering, that experience through contrast and constantly being that of someone who fell on my ass and had to get up over and over and over. It was brutal. It was painful. It was not a good time. It was worth it. But because I chose to go through the challenging point of this experience, I learned some very interesting things. And those interesting things are that if you can find what would be fun to create, or if you knew perhaps a different word would have resonated and I would have found it a little bit easier, what would you desire from your heart's truth to create? What does your soul, in alignment with your spirit, want to create? How would you live? The problem with spirituality at the moment in this part of our experience is that they are stuck in the healing cycle. They are stuck in the seeking, and these truth seekers and expressions of heightened states of awareness, consciousness, and redirection over and over and over. Inside out, we're looking at the shadows, we're looking at the blocks, we're looking at all these aspects, and there are infinite layers in this conditioned reality. In this reality, we have, not only do we have our karmic distortions, our past life separation points and wounds, we have our human incarnation, our inner child. We also have our ancestral. We have aspects of multidimensional. We have galactic, and we have cosmic distortions. We have every single possible layer of interdimensional consciousness that can be what I consider to be a little bit skew-if or distorted. And so you can, like I did, go through the layers of consciousness over and over, inside out, upside down, until you've gathered enough information and knowledge that you're willing to stop evolving and start living and being and creating. Now, not everyone has the level of desire to understand the human psyche or consciousness or the fabric of creation as much as I do. And that is probably a much kinder path, because to understand takes a lot of devotion, a lot of time, and a lot of energy. And so through all of this time that was committed to unlocking and allowing myself freedom from the human separation point, or what we could say the separate mind, the ego construct, the suffering, into pure presence, I found that which is fun. What is fun is not what I thought it was. What is fun is not what my divine plan said it was. What my heart desires is not what my higher self was guiding me to. What my heart wants in pure presence of the allness, of the oneness, of the lore that is God Source Creator within me was none of those things that I found through the pure spiritual expressions of quantum travel, through the consciousness expressions of that which I am, through the multiple perspectives and lenses, because the only truth sits in the center of your being. At the 0 point of your consciousness, the spark of creation that is you in the form that this human being right here desires. Now, humanity has no idea how to find that center point. Humanity doesn't know how to consciously create. Humanity thinks and continues to believe that we have to go through polarization to heal, that we have to experience pain to know love, that we have to meet these levels of separation to be strong. It's a lie. It's not true. It is the very construct of reality that keeps us in pain and suffering and living a timeline, or a divine timeline, that wasn't necessarily created by your sacred heart and your source connection. This is the challenge, is we got to realize that to live a life of true empowered source self, you have to realize that even your higher self lies to you. Even those upper realities are skew-if to your 3D here now present self. That to override, to complete and come unified is to recognize that you here as a human being are the most powerful creator. This center point of your sacred heart will allow for you to create what is fun. And when you find what your sacred heart wants, that's when creation flows. When you see what your sacred heart really desires, and not what you've been conditioned to want and think you believe, and not through the wounding of karmic polarized magnetization in relationship, and not through the aspects of comparing yourself to others, but from your sacred heart. When you find what your sacred heart wants to do, be and live in the world, a life by design of what is truly fulfilling for you, the other things dissolve away. You don't have to go through the infinite layers of consciousness because you just choose what is true for you. You don't have to dissect and manipulate aspects of yourself to find yourself, because you find the access point in the center of your being to your authentic expression, and you dissolve that which is in the way of choosing that. By coming into the sacred heart and asking the right question, thanks to the dear brother that asked what would be fun, it wasn't a word that resonated for me. Had I had someone a little bit more intuitive, would have been able to pick up that vibration. The right question to ask me at that point in time would have been, what would give you a life of purpose? Now, if I really sat with that, then what gives me a life of purpose? Well, I've lived one aspect of my purpose, and that was to help individuals step out of suffering and create an entire framework and modality for that. That aspect of my life experience feels complete. Although I get to share it with the world, I have a new assignment, a new sacred heart, a new mission that I create. Not that I came to earth as a human being on an assignment and a mission to create. That I create from my source self. That the new earth creators realize that they are the creator. Not what they came for back then, which has often been changed and mutated quite a bit when you realize. But your sacred heart, I get to choose now what brings me purpose to this life. And sometimes our purpose is a little different than what we think. Sometimes I hear people say, to live a life where I receive true unconditional love. What is wrong with that as a purpose, if one gets to come into the receiving of unconditional love, imagine what that shows to our divine brothers and sisters if you're actually willing to accept unconditional love. Now, for others, they might say something like, to guide and show through the light that I've remembered of what truth is, right? So their purpose might be around truth. My purpose, and my purpose here for this entire expression of communication, is because I desire in all of my sacred heart, out of all of the suffering that I've traversed, all of the karmic cleanup, all of the reconciliation of timelines, all of the landing in the new earth, that me here now desires to guide, teach, and educate you and anyone else who resonates, who's watching this video, how to create a life of their sacred heart, to create a life by design, to be the creator of your experience. We all talk about being the creator, but does anyone actually have steps and strategies on how to be that? Or is your unconscious mind, your trauma, and all of those things creating life for you? I know mine was. And I know the I want to say millions of people that I've impacted. I wouldn't have used millions, but I'm sure in the ripple effect that has been millions. Have believed that they have to step away from or work through the block to create. If I want wealth, I have to see where I'm in scarcity. If I want love, I have to see where I don't love myself. If I want to reconnect to my family, I have to see why I judge myself or my family. What if that's not the highest truth? What if there's another way to experience? What if there's a more easeful and graceful way? What if there is a way where instead of focusing on all the things that I am not to get me there, all the things that are in the way, all of the thoughts, all of the emotions, all of the somatic trauma, all of these expressions that exist within you. What if, and this is not bypass, what if you came to a point of accepting reality as it is at that level, and wherever and whatever your sacred heart's actual truth was, maybe it is that divine union relationship, that you go into the divine union relationship, you bring the divine union relationship here, and you choose to find the area of distance, time and space. That's what this reality is made up of. Manifestation misses this in the step of actualization, which is the distance between the vibration that you illuminate, vision, the secret stuff. Yes, vision it, feel it, be it, embody it, speak it. But the distance between what is the thing you're actually rejecting? Where is it that you judge it? Where is it that you actually secretly just don't want it? Where is the fear of it? But what is the 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 areas that are keeping you from that exact solidification in your reality so you could instantaneously manifest it into the creation of your experience? And then when you find that and you dissolve it on the spiritual, mental, emotional level, then you get to hold that and ask from this point here, your sacred heart, from the inner being, from the 0 point, not the spiral, the 0 point. What do I require to action, be, do, move, express in this moment to create that? If I am that, if I'm embodying that, what is my first step? And then my next step, and then my next step, and then my next step. Because I'm choosing to hold it, be it. And it is creating through me and from me. And then no longer do I have to tether and separate and push, pull, and find the infinite layers. And I'm saying infinite. I watch my brothers and sisters in the infinite layers of scarcity. I watch my brothers and sisters in the infinite layers of emotional suffering. I watch my brothers and sisters in the infinite layers of the seeking outside of oneself. I know it, I've seen it, I've guided, I've transcended it. And I have a solution and it's simpler than we really ever want to admit. And it's simply looking at, I am here, what I want is here, what is the thing that is causing the separation point in time and space from that being an embodied manifestation, and then what is the step that manifestation tells me to action so I can create and actualize that in my life. And so with that, I'd love to ask you, what is it? And in the comments below, what is it, the thing that you want to create that is your sacred heart's truth? Not from here, not from the wound, not from the pain, but from the sacred heart sitting in your heart, in your mind-heart coherence. What is the one thing that you really actually truly desire? And what are some of the areas in the distance between time and space to actually arriving and landing to that? Because some of those things, they might be 10 years down with the amount of stuff that you have. But if you take yourself to one of the core disruption points, the core distortions of perspective, then you can shorten that. You can shorten that right down to months. Something that is 10 years on your timeline can be months away. You just need to know how. And looking at some of those things that might intuitively pop up for you, and if you want to learn more about these frameworks, and if you would like to discover more around conscious creation and quantum experiencing and using your focused intention to create the life that you actually desire from your sacred heart's truth and becoming a conscious leader, please find the links below and join our community where we have all of these different trainings and daily lessons, information and quantum healing experiences or transcendent experiences. And like and subscribe this for more info. I love you, I love you, I love you. Thank you for receiving.